Hi, everybody. Welcome to the SOS Salon Business Success Podcast, where we are building brands that survive and developing people that thrive. Because what we know to be true is that if you're not developing your skill sets, your business is not going to grow or get any better than it is right now. And of course, we all know we're still in 2020. We're still in 2020, but it's coming to a close end. I'm very excited because this week is Thanksgiving. This week is a holiday week for a lot of us here in America. And I think we're excited to bring on the holidays and bring on the end of the year, bring on that coming together feeling, that connection feeling, which my guest today that I have is going to be kind of making, bridging that gap in that connection arena for us. So as I say, we're about building brands that survive while developing people that thrive. And I know a lot of people, they're confused by what they might need to be spending their time doing right now. And part of the strategy that we talk about in my SOS Salon podcast and my coaching program in there is that unless you're putting together a strategic opportunity, you're not going to see success. There's no more randomness going on. There's no more, quinky dinkies of, oh, I had success today, or, oh, I was fully booked today. It's some type of strategic effort that you're doing that's having you be successful. And I think one of the things that we're challenged by in 2020 is some level of consistency here. And so I put a lot of emphasis on looking at the strategy, and I broke down the strategy into 5 different areas that if you can spend time, devote some time to each of these 5 categories, I promise you that you will have some level of success. Now, there might be some of you that need to spend a little bit more time in one area over the other, but the truth is we can't neglect any of these 5 areas of success here. And so those areas are sales, operations, mindset, marketing, and education. And today we're going to be talking about operations, which of course is a big, fat, broad category, because under operations, you have systems, you have leadership, you have financials, you've got a lot of different, subcategories in this area that as a business, you have to kind of be mindful of in order to have some of that, those revenues, that success, that awareness that's happening with you. And I'm gonna tie in today a little bit more with under the operations category and with my guest, Warren Peksin, we're gonna talk about connection from a standpoint of where are we not feeling connected? And of course, anything in 2020 could be an answer for that. But what do we need to do in order to be more connected, not only to our business, but to our teams and just as importantly to ourselves? Because I talk about that you've got to be the captain of your ship. So our session today is called Aye, Aye, Captain. And Aye, Aye, Captain is, less about looking at what your expectations are maybe for your crew at this time, but more of what are the expectations that you have for yourself and your business now that we're kind of rolling into 2021. If you're not leading the team or being the captain of your ship, who is? And what can you do to be able to prosper going into this new year? What do you need to do to be that really, really engaging and connective captain here? So, Warren said this when we were chit-chatting a few minutes ago. And then when we were setting up this date for him to join me was, we got to get back to what matters. We got to get back to what matters. And I think 2020, if you could say that there was a blessing or a gift, I think that really looking to see what matters showed up this year for me. And I think it showed up for a lot of people as well. And I believe that we're making the changes we need to make in order to have the life that we want to live, in order to have the business that we want to have, in order to have, the dreams fulfilled that maybe we've been putting off, thinking we just needed to work a little harder and a little faster and a few more years. And I think right now we're saying, we need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And, and that's part of the captain's job is, not only taking care of the ship, but also taking care of the crew and certainly taking care of the passengers, which would be our clients in this situation here. So you got to lead yourself first into action in order to have some level of consistency and the expectations that you have for yourself. Now, my tagline for my overall business is connecting you to you so that you can confidently connect with others. And I've stated that because, you know, I can fall into a lot of different categories. So I help people connect better in speaking. I help people connect better in branding and marketing and leadership. And all of those categories are part of these 5 pillars that we've been talking about. But most importantly is, and I believe that the conversation that we're going to have today is going to lead to, how do we connect better with ourselves so that we can connect better with what's going on out there? So you're either connected or you're not. I know that connection is one of my core values because this year has really played a role in that. I'm grateful for Zoom. I'm grateful for video conferencing. I'm grateful for this technology that we have today, because at least I feel like I have some form of interaction with people on a daily basis while I'm, you know, coaching clients or doing webinars or programs. But we have to then ask ourselves, if that's not enough, what do we need to be doing in order to be more connected with others? So let's get started with our session today. And I'd like to, you know, we're going to take a deep dive with my guest, Warren Peksin. He's the Executive VP of, whoops, that went a little fast. We're going back. For those of you that are watching on video or watch the replay on video, well, let me, hold on, it's the other. But otherwise, you guys can catch me on the podcast on Spotify, Anchor, Google Play, all that good stuff. All right, so it's Warren Peksin is my guest today, and he's the Executive VP of Lexington International. I'll let him tell you what Lexington International is, but I'm going to tell you a little story of how Warren and I met, and that was back in the days of Sebastian. And it was the 90s, right, Warren?
It was. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, I saw this post the other day that said, first of all, welcome. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today.
You're welcome. Good to see you.
I saw this post and it says, don't tell anybody that 1980 was 40 years ago. So, yeah, that seems freaky to think that 1980 was 40 years ago. And so, you know, we met in the 90s, but you have a pretty extensive past in this industry. And, you know, right now you are an Angelino, you're born in Los Angeles, you're living in the Los Angeles area. And your father was involved, I think, in the beauty industry, right?
Yeah. He started in 1949 working for the beauty distributor in Los Angeles.
What was that one called?
Al Sperling Beauty Supply.
Yeah. And then, gosh, I remember all those days, and, you know, then the big distribution that went on back in the day. And it was a great time in the industry to be working in the industry from that point on. So you got involved in the beauty industry because your dad was kind of part of it, and it kind of merged you into it. And I see that I'm picturing it now, and I think you even have this in your bio here, that you're driving a 1969 VW bus, long hair, bell bottoms.
Long hair,
Paint the picture.
Huh? Yes,
paint the picture. Listen, bell bottoms are back. Longer hair is certainly coming back in because, you know, 2020, not being able to have our hair done as much, or not feeling safe having our hair done as much in some cases, certainly is going to create a trend. I saw the mullets back just because people doing their own haircut can't get to the back of their head. So they're just cutting the front, you know, business in the front, party in the back, right? So all these things have a reason to come back here. But you worked for Kenra, Sebastian, where we worked together, for Misi, West Coast Beauty Supply, Goldwell, and BioIonic. So those are all big names in the industry. And of course, I've always known you in more of the sales capacity or the business development capacity. And that's kind of the existence that you have now, even as a VP with HairMax. So I'm assuming Lexington is the kind of big name, and HairMax is the company that we might be familiar with?
Yeah, HairMax is the brand. Lexington International is the parent company.
Correct. Perfect. Good.
Yeah.
And they're a seller of medical grade laser devices to support people that have hair loss.
Right. We're a 20-year-old brand that manufactures medical grade laser technology as it relates to specific types of hair loss. In this case, androgenic alopecia, male and female pattern hair loss. And so, yeah. And And that's one of the things people have been losing these days. I'm losing my,
Oh,
it's stressful.
it's so true. I mean, there is, there's a lot of talk I see on these salon forums where people that have been through COVID are dealing with hair loss and dealing with their hair is physically changing. And of course, there's, there's some truth to that with viral infections. So certainly we can tap into that. But, today we're really going to be talking about kind of being that captain of your own ship and looking for ways to be able to lead your life. And I know that we chatted a little bit on, the blame game.
Right.
But
let's start. That's a good place.
There's a lot to blame.
Well, yeah, there is, right?
I'm going to stop share so people can see your beautiful face.
Well, thanks.
On speaker view here. Yeah. So, give us a little insight of you. Here's one of the things I want to say. I've always, listened to you, read your blogs and articles that you've done because you have a very well-rounded perspective of the beauty industry from a very long time. And you've seen the changes that have happened. And I think that there's still an enormous amount of change that's taking place in the industry. And where maybe before it was with manufacturers, with acquisitions and mergers, and then distribution started to fall into that category. But now I think a lot of the changes are happening just on the street level with salons. They're surviving or they're not.
Yeah, and then you throw in COVID-19. Right. So, this is a confusing time. It's a time of fear. It's a time where, look at human beings. One of the things we love to do is we love to make meaning out of anything and everything. Right. Even if it's fearful, and you and I know that fear isn't necessarily something that's real, but it sure seems that it's real. And then when you add a bunch of fears together, right, that's the sum of all fears, and we create habits and behaviors that end up in results that aren't based on anything that's real, right? Mm-hmm. So you throw all that in together, and you look at it, at the salon beauty industry, and it's like, oh my God, right? How do we navigate this? I'm second generation, like you mentioned, and in my, extensive time in the beauty industry, never before do I remember salons being lawfully requested to close their doors.
Yeah.
Right? It's like not, could you close your doors, or we recommend that you close your doors? No, you're shut down, right? And so not only did we have distribution changes before COVID-19, where channels of distribution, where products that were exclusive to salons were no longer exclusive to salons. And, and when you and I met, if a product showed up where it wasn't supposed to be, we called it diversion. And now we've just changed the label and it's called e-commerce, right? So, and so we just add that whole thing into it. But as human beings, it's so much easier for me to be on your side of the street and blame you, right, is either a person, place, or thing that is causing, my upset in my life and things not working in my life. Okay. And so that's what's happening to the beauty industry, right? Salons have reopened, and even though we've got protocols, like my wife and I go to the local salon, and you walk in and there, you're one of four people, you don't hear the loud noises, the chatter, the salon environment that we're so used to experiencing. We don't see that. We see big things of, product to make sure we cover our skin and put our masks on. And what people don't get is that all of that is creating changes for the hairdresser in terms of one basic thing, and that's like, I'm making less money. Okay. I don't have more than one client in the chair. I don't have anybody waiting. You got to wait in your car. The whole system has changed. But when you talk to people, it's like, okay, yeah, there's COVID-19, and then there's all these rules and regulations, but people are acting as if nothing's changed. Right. But I believe that the truth of the matter is that people are fearful and don't know what to do, right? They just don't know what to do. And, I know in my own life, fear can be real paralyzing, right? Even though I get that whatever I'm feeling fearfully isn't real, it's paralyzing me. It's got my feet stuck in concrete. And I think that's where the salons are right now. Nobody was prepared for this. Nobody is prepared for this. We're making whatever it is we're making up as we go along, right? And the bottom line is it's affecting people's lives. It's affecting hairdressers, and it's affecting friends that you and I have, not only as hairdressers, but distributors, and manufacturers. I think manufacturers are the ones that are getting away, with something positive, and that they can easily transfer the sales of their product from normal distribution channels to, putting it on an e-commerce site that's got a large database with a well-known brand, and, 1 + 1 equals sales for them, right? But so what about the distributor, and what about the salons who have really taken the hit? And so, I captain, being the captain of your own ship, in order to get from point A to Z, right, in terms of a journey or a travel, right, the captain has to be mindfully aware of themselves and their environment so they can make the right choices to get from point A to B, A to Z. So I know in my own life, right, and I've had ups and downs and had to reinvent myself more times than I, can remember, but you do what you do, that I think, the thing that I'm grateful for, and you mentioned earlier, that there are blessings, there are silver linings with the pandemic. And it's caused me and people I know to look at ourselves. How are we going to navigate? How am I going to, when I wake up in the morning, how am I going to make a living? What are the choices I need to make? Who has to be in my life, right, to make choices? Are the people in my life taking a stand for me? Do they want more for me than I want for myself? Who are my business partners? Who are my sources, right? And this is a time to look at that, right? We've talked to the salons about low, single inventory. Like I remember, for Misi, one of the things that we talked about years ago was like, hey, we have one color for both permanent, semi-permanent, cut back on inventory. And I think now the need is to make those kind of choices where it comes to limiting my choices, maximizing my dollars.
That's a really good point.
I remember when I was with Kenra, and we had a corporate sales trainer, and I'll never forget her name because she changed my life. Her name was Linda Schrader.